I couldn't help but think last night watching it was pretty awful performance again by Montero, where he gets like base runners steal on him at will, and he makes that screw up in the rundown at between third and home where he just completely overthrows Josh Donaldson. I thought that it was like base runner interference, like he should have been able to go home in the first place. And the night before, we had Rafi Lopez doing things where, just throwing over to second base. Nobody's there. Terrible throw. Makes the error. He's a completely empty bat as well. Luke Maley has been rumored to be coming back up here. I think that he will. Good for him. He's a good defensive catcher. But like I was mentioning in the prelim here, or preamble to our show, that he's a 356 OPS this year. Like that's what the Jays have been against Chris Sale. He's completely horrible. He's got no bat. I'm tired of watching trashy backup catchers. And now that they have Danny Jansen, I understand that he started the season in A-ball. But like, what's the case to not have him carry the bulk of the load the rest of the way out here, especially considering I don't think we're going to see Russell Martin?
Yeah, I think every game that passes, it gets a little more enticing to bring Danny Jansen up. And he's a guy that's made it up to AAA, so you're okay with bringing him up and testing him at this point, I think, and especially if Russell Martin does need to miss the remainder of the year. Obliques are so difficult. You never know if it's going to be a week or a month. But Jansen has been very underrated this year, even despite the numbers he's put up. Since he didn't enter the season as a number 5 or 6 prospect, people are still waiting. When's the next injury going to come with him? That's always been the issue, but that's been a lot of bad luck, frankly, getting hit in the hand by balls and stuff like that. So the numbers he's put up and what he's done behind the plate, not a defensive specialist. He's not a Russell Martin or a Reese McGuire in prospect terms, but does enough back there to manage a staff. And you're right. I think we've seen this year in Toronto and around the league, backup catcher, there's not a lot of talent there. The catching position in Major League Baseball, you need to overspend a bit if you want a legitimate backup. And a lot of teams are just settling for a guy that can catch and throw. And that makes sense at this point. So Jansen's made every possible case he can make up to this point. So now it's just a question of development and how far you want to push him, but he's earned it.
Yeah, and I get that. And of course, like, you're not trying to make your backup catcher the star of your team, especially when you're paying Russell Martin the amount of money that he makes. Yeah. I just don't see the case to run these guys out there anymore when you know what they are, and you can give Danny Jansen a look at least and see how he feels against Major League pitching. So out of the guys that you think is going to come up, I find it really weird that at the beginning of the year, the AAA depth was totally questionable, and there was really nothing there. Rowdy Tellez was the man. He's kind of cratered over the season. I know he put together a decent final month in AAA, but now he's blocked by a couple guys. I don't really think that he has a lot of value to the Blue Jays team right now. But there's a few guys, at least now, that it looks like they're going to be calling up. And I saw that Baraki is going to make his first start in AAA, I believe, tomorrow. You have a couple of intriguing names that are going to be coming up right now. I'm curious to get your read on who you are most looking forward to seeing in September of the Blue Jays call-ups. Is it Hernandez?
I think Hernandez is going to be a really exciting one to see because he should figure prominently into next year's team. If Baraki comes up to make a start or two, or Anthony Alford as well, he should be in the conversation. They'll probably factor in next year. But I think Hernandez, just given how advanced he is, the amount of AAA ball he's played, he looks like a big candidate for a corner outfield position in 2018. So he has been on a real hot streak lately in AAA. Started out slow, but at the same time, he's a young guy who played his whole career in the Houston organization and one day said, hey, move to Buffalo. So I'll forgive a couple slow weeks. But the athleticism he can bring and the power and the defense, it's a combination the Blue Jays don't have enough of right now. He can hit 20 home runs and steal 20 bases if he really clicks, and has done a much better job working walks and avoiding strikeouts this year. He really bottomed out in 2015 in Double-A Corpus Christi, struck out all the time. His prospect stock took a big hit, but he's bounced back, and I think fans are going to love him just like Alford because it's athleticism, it's speed, it's, like you said earlier, it's a reason to watch even if you're losing, which there's a lot of value in that.
What is in the pot when it comes to middle infielders? I think all Blue Jay fans kind of realize at this point that you need more offense from these guys, even though you plan to have Devin Travis at second base next year. But as we know, you can't really plan for a full season of Devin Travis, given his injury track record. Darwin Barney, not good enough. Ryan Goins, not good enough, even though he had another hit with runners in scoring position last night.
Should have been an RBI, too.
Yeah, but, Kendrys Morales is the slowest man on earth. What's going on in middle infield? Who's coming up? Who's available? Is there anything?
If you're looking in terms of next year, you're probably looking at someone like Lourdes Gurriel Jr., who's played a lot of second base and a little shortstop. Now, as you can imagine, somebody coming from Cuban baseball in 2015, not playing a lot of ball recently, and then dealt with injuries, a little rusty, but has really turned the corner lately, both defensively and at the plate, and is extremely talented. He's on a major league contract, and some of the plays he's made in Double-A, going into the hole, ranging back, throwing while he's running, spinning, have been amazing. His athleticism is there to play the position, just an issue of consistency. But beyond him, yes, you can look to a Bo Bichette, a Kevin Biggio, but they're a little further down. Richard Urania in Double-A, the bat needs to take some real strides there. So outside of Gurriel, I still think you're looking at longer term, late 2018, early 2019 at best. But Gurriel, I think, will be kind of that, maybe like Rowdy Tellez this year, the spring training darling that everybody really jumps on.
What do you make of Carlos Ramirez? Because I can't help it. Like the numbers are pretty eye-popping. At Double-A, 41 Ks over 32 innings, hasn't allowed an earned run. Do you give him a look in the pen, especially considering how worn down some of these guys might be?
Yeah, I'd love to see Carlos Ramirez. And he is such a fun story because he was an outfielder until a few years ago. A decent one, but not a great one. So he moved on to the mound just around 2014 it was, and had potential. He's 6'5" and has a big arm, but now he's putting it together. So he's 26 years old, but given how new he is to the mound, I think of him as somebody who's 21 or 22. He's gone through Double-A and Triple-A, 37 and 2/3 innings, 0 runs. How you hold that back in September, I don't know. I think he's obviously done everything by definition to earn a shot. He struck out 44 batters, 16 hits against. He's had as good a season as you can have. He can reach up, touch 95, 96 with his fastball, and a big slider that he's starting to control this year. So he profiles more as a high leverage guy if you can make that work. He'll walk a few hitters, but he'll also strike out a ton. So I think he'd be one that would be really fun to see.